My name is Sheridan. Oh, sorry, got like a notification that said recording was in progress. But yeah, my name is Sheridan. My pronouns are she, hers. I'm actually, 19 years old. And then, yeah, I'm a chair member of the CCCN Youth Leadership Working Group. And I go to UT Austin with a major in sustainability studies.
Hey y'all, my name's Ashley Tabelli Pettis. I use she, her pronouns. I'm 32 years old. I work for the City of Austin in the youth programming team. I'm also a chair member of the CCCN Youth Leadership Working Group. It's a pleasure to meet you all and have you all here with us today.
Hey y'all, I'm Gabby Benitez, she, her pronouns. I'm constantly forgetting how old I am, but I'm 27. And I'm a chair of this group and currently also a master's student at UT Austin in community and regional planning. Yeah.
Hi all, I'm Kirsten Johansson, she, her pronouns. I'm 32 years old and a chair member of this group. I also have a oversee our cadet program and newly appointed position to support with the Civilian Conservation Corps in Austin.
Hi, I'm Brittany. I go by she, her. I'm 21 and I study urban studies at UT. And I am currently a co-facilitator of the Youth Force Council.
Alrighty. So I want to thank you for the introductions. Those were amazing. So now I'm going to be talking about our group and what our vision is. So our vision is we imagine an Austin in which young people can easily access careers in the outdoors, nature, and environment, are fairly compensated for their contributions, and that the field and leadership within represents the communities we serve. So youth going from 14 to 24. Our goals is to foster a culture of youth leadership internally and across the city and compensate them fairly for their contributions. Another set of goals is provide personal professional development opportunities for youth and those who serve them. And lastly is keep equity at the forefront of our work.
All right, before we continue, I will be very quickly reading the land acknowledgement section. We would like to acknowledge that we are meeting on an indigenous land of Turtle Island, the ancestral name of what is now called North America. Moreover, I would like to acknowledge the Alabama, Coxsata, Caddo, Carrizo, Comerudo, Coahuilteca, Comanche, Kickapoo, Lipan Apache, Tonkawa, and Yitztel del Sur Pueblo, and all the American and India and indigenous people and communities who have been or have become part of these lands and territories in Texas. We commit ourselves to honoring the people we were before us, to reduce an adverse effect of colonization of these lands. Some action items that we will take: remaining accountable to indigenous peoples, supporting indigenous peoples by donating time and money, supporting land protectors, and supporting the return of land, among others.
Cool. So by the end of this meeting, we will learn some best practices for equitable hiring, hear feedback from youth on hiring and recruitment, see an example of an accessible job posting, so the Youth Force Council, workshop our actual job postings and identify areas for improvement / actual changes we can implement.
Okay, cool. So opening questions. Think about these questions. Please respond to one or more of them in the chat.
Can someone expand a bit on what we mean by the first point? What system do you use to make your applications?
Yeah, that I think that the system, like, do you use FormStack, Google Form, paper application, just like how do you develop your application?
Great, thank you.
No problem. Awesome. There's some responses in the chat. Cool. Thank you, Amy. So Amy was saying that in the city, there are certain parts of job descriptions and applications that are set by our corporate HR department and are not able to be edited. Pay rates are also not predetermined based on positions and experience. Dawn says, I'm walled off from the whole process, but trying to steer clear from the back seat. Other organizations come into our schools with all white old women. Gabby says, in the past, at Keep Austin Beautiful, we have used Indeed and a form on our WordPress site to generate job applications. Rachel says, email and Google Forms, members of our hiring committee, parents, teachers, staffs, pay rates based on budget scale, website, Indeed, social media. Cool, yeah. You know, we all use a very online based application systems. And it's good just to know like how people are producing these applications and what kind of forms they're using and language and maybe just barriers in terms of their own applications that they're producing. Also, anyone else is free to read the comments in the chat. Yeah, okay, so I'll read a few more comments and then we'll get to best recruitment and hiring practices. Where did I leave off here? Google form and PDF downloadable from website, create job postings, parts, determine pay rates, post at our website, social media, and send via email list to AISD and partner schools, counselors, and teachers, plus word of mouth from previous members. Job posting is created by direct managers who will be supervising a role and then vetted by leadership, which we do pay scales on all postings. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm not gonna read all of them. I'm gonna jump back into the slides because we have limited time. You know, we had a session in November and we're essentially started this talk about equitable recruitment and hiring practices and how can we make, you know, our applications and our process through hiring equitable and manageable and you know, just to be aware of how we're describing our jobs and the work that folks will be doing. But you know, today we're kind of focusing on job descriptions and applications and you know the first view of folks applying to the jobs. And your job description is kind of your first showcase of the job and the organization that the person is applying for. So you know, it's the opportunity to make a strong first impression. And while job descriptions outlines, you know, different responsibilities and desired skills and experience to complete the job, you know, it also communicates the value of your organization. So in your job postings, we found it equitable and fair, we always want to make sure we establish fair and competitive wages and benefits. Like clear salary or clear salary range is very important in the job description when you are posting it out. We want to make sure you emphasize experience and skill over academic or professional degrees, if possible, because we all understand some jobs have degree attachments to them. But experience is super beneficial, and like through my experience and my work journey, I definitely am more of an experiential route, and the jobs that I've done and the experience I've gained, because my degree has nothing to do with what I do now. So slightly demonstrate diversity, commitment to diversity by offering different incentives, right? So like for specialized skills, for different language skills or experience. Consider including experience with diversity. So like, have you worked with a certain population of folks or in certain areas or in certain places? And then ensure requirements are as inclusive as possible. For example, requiring access to reliable transportation is more inclusive than requiring car ownership. So just making those descriptions and wants from your applicants very inclusive and clear. Yeah, we can go to the next slide. Thank you. So last session, we talked about barriers and when applying to jobs and some things that might halt folks from actually even viewing the application or completing an application, right? And we just talked about a few barriers that might come up in terms of looking for jobs or filling out job applications. So talked about qualifications, specifically higher education, college degrees. We talked about conflicting priorities, whether you have child care or elderly care or whatever, any type of priority that you might need to manage with your new job schedule, transportation, people without documents and immigration status, workplace culture, and uncomfortable in white-dominated spaces. So these barriers are things that we face applicants and face with every day, and it's up to us to make this environment more comfortable and equitable. So we thought about some examples of equity. Rewriting job descriptions, experience can substitute for education. We talked about play clear, flexible schedules, remote and in-person opportunities, offering transportation solutions. We kind of talked about the immigration status, and if you have the ability, to pay folks that you don't require documents, we pay with gift cards or some kind of other monetary device. Racial equity work and training for the workplace is very important. Cultural ongoings and open conversations about equity and inclusiveness. This is super important. And just providing mentors to new staff so they feel comfortable and a part of the team.
So some items that we talked about during our last session. This is a slide of just the feedback that we had directly from young folks. And so some things that worked well included paid internships, direct outreach to youth, and also helping them understand resources, reducing jargon on applications, multiple ways to access applications existing in multiple languages, as well as flexible scheduling for jobs. Some items that were noted do not work well include tokenism, such as feeling hired because of race. So instead focusing on person's experience, in parentheses, skill-based hiring. Items that we talked about already, like requiring degree or college experience when it's not really necessary, requiring hard to get experience. So experience that may be difficult to acquire without having that position. Only in-person meetings were noted, or only online applications or meetings. And then some additional ideas that came up were just helping young folks understand that there are no dumb questions, not being condescending, having patience, showing empathy, and making sure everyone feels included in the process.
Passing over to Ashley or Brittany, both of you maybe?
Yeah, I'm sorry, my computer just like shut down real quick, but okay, so this is the Youth Forest Council application. This is a screenshot of the page, but Kirsten, if you'd like to click on the link, we can just show like the first like view you get of the page real quick. Thank you. So one of the first things that is available is just like a description of the Youth Forest Council, but then also if you scroll down a little bit, it like shows how much Youth Forest Council members get paid, which is important because, you know, these are people in high school or college, and it's important to have paid internships to make things equitable as well. And then you can go back to the slides. I just took a screenshot of the like description and like requirements. So we have a who should apply, and there's different notes on like the expectations of the internship. And then some things to note is that we included that there are no academic requirements to participate in the Youth Forest Council. We want to emphasize like we don't want people to feel like that's a barrier to them. And then we also include like pictures of people that were in the Youth Forest Council to show like who is like included and stuff. And then also we show our commitment to equity in that last sentence about encouraging young people from communities of color and communities facing systemic barriers to apply. Ashley, did you want to add anything?
Yeah, sure. And Kirsten actually just put it in the chat, the thing that I wanted to add on to it. But through you know, a collaborative effort with Brittany and other folks that were on the team during that time, you know, they realized that a barrier to applying to certain internships, particularly in the city of Austin, was the application process. It is long and tedious and a little intimidating. And if this is your first job and you're jumping into this job career journey, that might stop you from, you know, attempting to apply to that internship. So the youth programming team, you know, had a collaborative effort to make this application for the Youth Forest Council a little bit more understandable and an easier read and clear. I think if there's a link in the notes to the application real quick, we can show it just quickly. Is it in the notes? I'm not sure. Let's see.
I can't see the notes from my screen view, but maybe,
okay.
Is it on your site?
No. Yeah, actually it is actually. Go back to the site. I'm so sorry. Apply. Yeah, there we go. And go down. And you can just click on that application. Yeah, there we go. Perfect. So this is a form stat form that the team created to make this process a lot easier. And, you know, through this, it's really, you know, not in that city of Austin kind of process. So through this process, you can kind of see how we broke this down, and you can just go, you say next through here, through this one. And it just provides, you know, a very clear and simple application for the interns to fill out. And Amy made an important comment, and Amy was on this youth programming team when she was in DSD Urban Forestry and created this template and style application. And she noted that these are temporary positions, so they have less rules and restrictions than full-time permanent positions in the city. So I think that was a way that we kind of got over that barrier, but just because of this is a temporary position in the city. So thank you so much for showing the application. Perfect. So everything is on there. You have the time completed for the application, so people can allocate where they need to sit down, or the recommendation, and you have all the requirements for that as well. Yeah. Okay. I think that was that. That's what I wanted to add to that.
So now we're going to go into breakout rooms, basically in groups I don't know how many, but in groups, basically, y'all are going to be looking at one or more job postings together, and then you can go through the postings, and you can either pick one and go through it together, or just look at different ones together. We'll only have 20 minutes for this activity, and we're going to ask each group to share out for about a minute after we have our breakout group time. Some questions to think about are: what barriers exist in your application, and how can you lower them to be more inclusive and accessible? So you're going to be thinking about language and requirements. And then another question is the pay clearly stated and transparent? How else can it be more equitable? And which of the best hiring practices are in your posting? So you can go ahead and look back at slide 12, and you'll see the best recruitment and hiring practices for that. Also, if you don't have a job posting, you can click on the resources sheet link in the slide, and that will have a whole bunch of resources and a whole bunch of different links to be able to look at other job postings. And we also encourage people to use their own job postings as well.
I will stay in the main room for Zoom tech support. So if y'all are getting kicked out, or if you find that you want to be with a certain person, if that makes sense for you for your work environment, just hang back and I can put you in a different room. And the link to the slides is in the chat, so someone can take notes on, I think it's about halfway through the slides.
Sorry, Rachel and Gabby and my team for clicking the wrong button. I'll just say that real quick before we get started. I was trying to clear it out of the way and I clicked leave. Sorry. Anyway,
Okay.
back to the main agenda.
Yeah, so I think everybody's back. So we're going to go ahead and continue on to the share out. And so we want y'all to share any doable potential changes you identified, something that could be like improved on, is something that you liked about your job postings. And this will be like each group. And we can go in order from like 1, 2, 3, 4. So if group 1 would like to start.
I think that was Gabby's group, if y'all didn't know numbers.
So I really appreciated having everyone's eyes on and job posting that we have that's active currently. One of the best things that we located was actually a mistake in our posting that said that the applicant would be responsible for a $50 background check fee, when in actuality, we pay that fee for them. So just making sure that the information is accurate to our practices, I think would eliminate a barrier and obviously improve for anybody looking at that position, knowing what to expect. And then that extended into being able to develop a preview of the process to really let people know what communication and a timeline to expect from us when applying for something. I think if I were applying, I would really like to have that information ahead of time. So that was a really valuable reflection for me. Thank you.
Would anybody else from group 1 like to share?
I'll just say one of the things that Rachel's application had was a simple, email us. Don't worry about filling out this form. And I think that after having filled out so many forms for jobs in my life, I liked that idea. But we also talked about, well, maybe the application has its advantages too. And I'm just curious to kind of hear thoughts from others too. The simplicity of the email versus I've already got this resume. Now I have to fill out all this information again on this application. One of those, kind of that dichotomy.
And in there, I think I mentioned that for me, that I work with teens, that I'm teaching them how to write resumes. It makes more sense, or how to, get into the workforce. It makes more sense for us to have that application versus if you're trying to hire some folks who already should have a resume and so forth. So, taking a look at what's your audience, may be one of the things that really shapes that decision.
Thank y'all for that. Would the group 2 like to go next?
Sure. I think that I got nominated to talk about it because it was our application that got looked at. So it was a paid program intern application. And the things that were good about it is it mentioned a lot of, we will teach you these things. And it listed like first aid, CPR, whatever. And a lot of the qualifications were like willingness to learn these things, interested in learning these things, passionate about conservation, instead of experience actually is not even mentioned on it at all. And then I would say that the edits that were caught were that there's a section that says driver's license and access to a vehicle preferred, but it didn't say anything about gas or mileage being covered. And we do pay gas. And so that needs to go in there. And it does say preferred instead of required, because it just, if they don't have one, it means that one of our staff of 3 goes and picks them up to take them to camping trips. And so that's just like a conversation to have. And then the pay range is not in our job posting, even though it's published in our grants. And so that should be just on the website. And it's basically 12, 15, or 18 per hour, depending on age and experience. And, 18 is really like, you're going to do this. It's an internship, but it's really like a job. You're a grown up. And then 15 is everyone with some experience, and 12 is you're brand spanking new. And so, and then the age is in there, but it's 16 and up, and that's for a liability insurance reason. And that's in there, but it's in the narrative, and it was suggested to put it as a bullet point. And then the thing that was an oversight, we have a page on our website that's diversity, equity, and inclusion, and it's very clear and laid out and has photos and everything. But in the job postings, there's a tiny little intro paragraph of about 3 pages or 3 sentences that needs to have our wording around our main goal of creating equitable access to nature. Needs to be in that sentence, needs to be in that intro paragraph.
which is just an oversight because those job postings were written about 10 years ago and have just been kind of added to, but not really read clearly. And so, but it is on our website. It's just not in that spot. And so it will go into that spot today. So thanks for looking at it, all of you.
Would anybody else from group 2 like to talk? Okay, we can go on to group 3. So I was part of group 3, and so I'm going to go ahead and speak for us. And so we found that we had the Urban Roots Communications internship application, and we saw that some things that could be improved were basically it said that one of the requirements was that you had to be an undergraduate student or a graduate student. So that was already kind of like a barrier. Not everybody will have an education. And then another thing is that it said you had to provide your own computer, and some people might not have that accessibility. And then there was an inconvenience of writing a cover letter. Somebody noted that people are like in the 20s and around that age don't really want to have to write cover letters and go through that process. And there was also like confusing wording in the application process. It was just it was 3 bullet points of like different things you had to do, but it was just worded really badly. So that was confusing. And then there was a section that said that phone call inquiries were not going to be accepted. And that was like the last sentence of the whole application. And so it kind of seemed like it ended on a negative note. And then some things that we did like was that they included background information on their organization and also added some links to check out like their website and some videos that they had. And then we also liked that the pay and the hours were clearly stated, and that it was remote and in person. So it had like a flexible schedule. And then it also had an equal opportunity employer statement. I'm trying to see if I can find it in the Who We Seek section. And it said that Urban Roots is an equal opportunity employer that offers positions with varying skill levels and responsibilities that amplify our mission, and went into that. So we also like that. Would anyone from group 4, which I think is our last group?
Hey, yeah, I was in group 4. I'd be glad to read the notes, or Jessica, I know we looked at your application. If you wanted to comment on some things that we talked about and kind of an overview.
Sure, I'll happily talk about it because I think it gave me a lot of insight to that application. So I should note that about 8 years ago, I was the one who took on creating applications for all the entry-level summer camp positions out of our centralized programs division. I'm now no longer a part of that, and it goes through our HR. So it was interesting to go back and look at it. One of the things that we noted is that we liked that there was, I think the pay rates are up front, and that one thing did have no experience on it, but the other one, there were 2 pay rates because there are 2 options. One did have experience. But then we looked at the certifications that are listed, and they're like CPR, first aid, AED, and it wasn't clear that we would actually pay for them. Not only do we pay for them, but we also pay people for their time while they are getting the training. And I think that that's something that we need to go back and fix. And then we looked at it, and it had, I think, 6 open-ended questions, some which were really simple answers. Others were about experience. And I think Victor pointed out that one of them asked specifically about some skills that we have staff do, like rock climbing, kayaking, mountain biking, hiking. And so for anyone who doesn't have that experience, they might be like, oh, I don't have that experience, so I guess I'm not going to get this job. And I think it should be much clearer that we are going to train on those things, because we've certainly hired and do hire people that have never been rock climbing, never been caving, never been kayaking. I'll be honest, I've had conversations with the staff about like, they love to hire people with experience, but it's an entry-level position. And so we need to have a balance between having staff that we hire with some experience and staff that actually have no experience. And so I think we need to figure out how to communicate that in the application as well, that we do need some people that are just interested. So it was really helpful.
Cool, y'all. Is there anything else from your group, Jessica? I don't want to cut Sheridan off, but I know we're closing out here.
I think we're all good. Yeah.
Oh, well, thanks for those reflections. It is really great that people found actual actionable things to improve their applications. And we look forward to seeing improved applications from our crews. Sneak peek, next session that we're going to plan on offering is recruiting. How do we do outreach? How do we get these applications to folks that we're trying to reach? This is a big challenge for our group personally, and a lot of folks have this challenge. So if you want a little bit of a sneak peek, you can scroll down to the end of this slides presentation and kind of see some of the content we're going to be sharing next time. You can anticipate maybe in the next 3 months that we would offer that. So thanks. And we look forward to sharing that and having conversations with y'all on those topics.
Also, I dropped it in the chat, but if you're able to open up our new member form and can fill that out if you are new to our group, please do. It really helps as we're also planning on sending out the notes, recording, slides, etc. After this training. So we want to make sure that you get that information.
Thanks, everyone. Y'all have a great day. Have a wonderful weekend.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. This was